there was the riot incident that happened in Montreal. We covered it in the last live stream. And I showed you this picture here. This is a screenshot from the Jerusalem Post of over 85,000 Quebec students strike for Gaza, calling for intifada and final solution. Now, it looks chaotic. It looks crazy. It looks absolutely insane. No wonder why people jump to the conclusion that, oh, they're all pro-Hamas. And, you know, people like Pierre Poilievre are now saying that Justin Trudeau is creating this safe haven for pro-terrorist, pro-Hamas people on the streets. And they show this particular picture. And you remember that I told people this might come back to bite them. That this particular picture with this particular person, there's something that hasn't been addressed yet. There's something more to the story that will come later on. Well, guess what? According to the Daily Mail, that woman that's giving the Nazi salute there, woman who performed the Nazi salute at protests, is unmasked as an owner of 2 kosher cafes inside a Jewish hospital. This is the Daily Mail reporting from Montreal by the name of John Kennedy, who wrote this article. So it says a woman who was caught at a pro-Palestinian demonstration giving the Nazi salute and making anti-Jewish threats has been unmasked as the owner of 2 kosher cafes inside the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal, Canada. Or as some French would say, Montreal, Canada. Mali Ma Abdullah Hadi, God, that's a lot of syllables, 39, was shockingly caught on camera giving the Sieg Heil salute towards pro-Israel counter-protests at last Thursday's protests at her alma mater, Concordia University. She attempted to shield her identity with a kefe, or do you say kife? I don't know how to pronounce that. As traditional Palestinian scarf, as well as a medical mask and sunglasses, but was revealed as she taunted the opposing group. Abdul Hadi warned them in this video, final solution is coming your way. The final solution. Do you know what the final solution is? Do you know what the final solution is? So they explained the final solution was the Nazi plan for a deliberate and systematic mass murder of Jews during the Second World War. It took place from 1941 to 1945 and saw the vast majority of Jewish victims murdered. Abdul Hadi was swiftly identified on social media as one of the owners of the Second Cup Cafe franchises in 2 pavilions of the Jewish General Hospital. Both cafes were certified kosher according to the Jewish Community Council of Montreal. The cafe's overseeing company, Second Cup Canada, confirmed that Abdul Hadi was filmed making hateful remarks and gestures and has zero tolerance for hate speech on Saturday. In a statement, the company explained, in coordination with the hospital, we have shut down the franchisee's cafe and are terminating their franchise agreement. This franchisee's actions are not only a breach of our franchise agreement, but they also violate the values of inclusion and community we stand for at Second Cup. The parent company, Foodtastic, said on X Sunday, it will retain the cafe staff and continue to pay them until the location at the Jewish General Hospital reopens under new management. In a statement, the Jewish General Hospital said, we fully support Second Cup's decision to take swift and decisive action in this matter by shutting down the franchisee's cafes and terminating their lease agreement. Abdul Hadi owned the Second Cup franchises since around 2015. In the company's annual report that year, she pictured with Sabi Abdul Hadi and Karen Diaz. The 3 were identified as franchisees. A hospital worker told the Daily Mail that he was surprised to learn about Abdul Hadi's actions at the protests. What she did at the protest was just stupid on so many levels. I would argue it was stupid on purpose. I would argue it was stupid on purpose because the way that she countered herself into being on the other side, being part of the pro-Palestinian side and making those remarks, again, as we stated before, a lot of these rallies that start off with peace, that start off with a kindred message of, ending the wars and finding communications and finding a coalition of peace and diplomacy so that we can end the apartheid, so we can end the totalitarian regime swifting over Palestine, so we can end the genocide. That gets taken over by infiltrators like her. That gets overtaken by infiltrators, and we've seen numerous accounts of people that are either aligned themselves with AIPAC lobby groups, that have aligned themselves with pro-Israel, support groups that are franchised and they're cultivating together by these organizations, or Zionists that pose themselves as pro-Palestinian to discredit that movement, to discredit the people that actually just want peace, that want to cut off the funding of pledging for a genocide that's wiping out an entire civilization of Palestinians. And we have seen this numerous and numerous times. And I pointed this out that if we looked into what happened in Montreal, we were going to find some instigators, and here's that example of it. So this is what Second Cup, the company, had to say about this. Is their statement. It says, last night, our franchisee at the Jewish General Hospital was filmed making hateful remarks and gestures. Second Cup has a zero tolerance for hate speech. In coordination with the hospital, we've shut down the franchisee's cafe and are terminating their franchise agreement. This franchisee's actions are not only a breach of our franchise agreement, but they also violate the values of inclusion and community we stand for at Second Cup. And I could bet you anything that the minute the news media gets a hand of this, there's going to be some infiltrators. There's going to be someone out there that's going to write hit pieces about Second Cup, and they're going to say, how anti-Semitic of them. How anti-Semitic. You talk about inclusion and you don't support the Zionist project. How dare you call out this Jewish woman and shutting down franchises at a Jewish hospital. I mean, yeah, she did make Nazi salutes and references about Hitler, but how dare you do something like that? How dare you to try to spin the argument? And here's also something else brought to attention that I found this kind of interesting on top of what happened in Montreal, on top of the pro-Palestinian. Started as a peaceful protest that went into a full-blown riot because people dressed undercover, posing as civilians to cause destruction and just try to discredit the whole thing. Note this, that before the Montreal riot, Canada approved 8,000 temporary visas for Israelis while completely failing to reunite Palestinian Canadians with their family members facing genocide in Gaza. An erogenous double standard that echoes the realities of Israel's apartheid system. And that's from the Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East, which they quote Haaretz, an Israeli publication, the Israeli newspaper that now the Zionists in Israel are boycotting. They're boycotting their own state's publication because their publication has even gone to tell the truth about the genocide. They're the ones that told us about Netanyahu paying off Hamas, creating this terrorist group to dismantle the liberation process in Palestine, to cause this commotion, to cause this genocide, because as part of the Zionist playbook, if you look at the entire span of where Israel came from, why it's strategically placed in the Middle East, as RFK Jr. would say, it's part of our aircraft carrier. It's purposely there because they strategically put it there as a military operation to go after Middle Eastern territories, to go after all these other countries and hijack their resources as a business opportunity for the globalists. And they tied that to the Zionist movement. And if you look at the Greater Zionist Project, that is their whole venture. So the Zionists, not the Jewish, but the Zionists are against Haaretz. Because let's remember, Zionism is not Judaism. Jewish people support a ceasefire. They're the ones that are calling out for peace. They're the ones even critiquing the notion of an Israeli state. But it's the Zionists, it's the cults that Netanyahu cultivates and has done a global, complete mind control of these people that are in an echo chamber supporting for a genocide, supporting the slaughter. And you get people on television, you get people all over different networks across the globe that are cheerleading this, that are saying that they're stopping terrorism, that, oh, we're going after the jihadists. But they don't tell you where these jihads came from. They don't tell you the whole story. And the whole story about this is that all these terrorist groups that we know their names, we know where they are, we know we want to track them down, all these terrorist groups come back to the CIA. They come back to organizations within the White House. They come back to MI6. They come back to the Mossad. The Mossad paid people of ISIS to continue brutalizing people in the Middle East. Why? So that they can go after that territory. So they can start bombasting in places like Syria and Libya and Lebanon. And it's amazing that 8,000 temporary visas managed to get under the radar as we're speculating, as we're having this debate and discussion about immigrants, which we should. Obviously, we should be having a talk about border security because it is a national issue. It is something that I would say most majority of Canadians, most majority of Americans would say that's a common thing that we should be concerned about. That's what they're worried about in their politics. None of this ever gets addressed. You ever notice that? That doesn't get addressed, but since we're talking about, Palestinian support, since we're talking about Hamas support, which they're not supporting Hamas, they're supporting Palestinian liberation, the families that are being sacrificed through this, that didn't want this war to exist. And even the Israelis know about that. That's why the Israelis protested against Netanyahu. But they don't talk about this. They don't talk about the 8,000 temporary visas for Israelis. But yet there's an uproar about Indians coming in. There's an uproar on Pakistanis coming into Canada. Again, if you want to have a serious conversation, you would have to include this. You would have to include the fact that there's 8,000 temporary visas for Israelis while completely failing to reunite Palestinian Canadians. And if you notice down below in the Haaretz article there, it says, Trudeau, get ready. Nearly 8,000 Israelis have received temporary Canadian work visas so far this year. 5 times the number in 2023. Now, why would that be the case? Why would that be the case? Gee, could it be these people are leaving the country to avoid warfare? Could that be the reason? Could they be Mossad agents being paid to come into this country to mix things up so they discredit peace movements? We don't know. But we won't know if we ignore this. We won't know if they continue to sweep this under the rug and pretend that's not a big deal while they're discussing about how we need to fix the immigration policy. Well, maybe we should start also talking about this. How temporary visas are just going to, hand-selected individuals that, it's going to do great business for us. Because remember, this is our greatest ally, according to Canadian politicians, according to leadership in Parliament. It's our greatest ally. How come? I don't know, but it's a great ally. Maybe because they have blackmail. I don't know.